So this started off, I was actually watching Riverdale, the Netflix show, a while back, and I came across this episode. The episode's actually called The Golden Age of TV, and they talk about this concept of living in the light. And you know, when I'm watching stuff, binging stuff, I sometimes get ideas through that, when I'm watching movies or whatever it may be. And that just stood out to me, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. So I always just kind of write it down whenever I have an idea. So it just kind of sat there for a while, and then I had a session where I was kind of going through my song ideas and looking at stuff, and then I came across that line. And you know, sometimes things will happen where you just read through stuff and then all of a sudden something comes to you. And I saw that line, and right away I thought no more war, and it just kind of came to me. And then I heard the entire chorus: we live in the light, no more war. We live in the light, no more war. And I could actually hear the entire song in my head, which doesn't happen all the time, but that's kind of how it happened. Yeah, so the rest kind of developed from there. I knew that I wanted to do like another steel drum-esque song. I made a song with a steel drum called Dreading Fear that I finally released late 2024. That's actually a song that I wrote way back when, that I brought back. And I also wanted another one. I never really knew what it was going to be. But when I came up with this idea, No More War, I just like immediately heard the steel drum in my head, and I can kind of hear the riff. And there's actually a song called Here Comes the Hot Stepper, which is like a rap kind of pop song. And it's in one of my favorite childhood films, Racing Stripes, where there's actually a pair of flies that kind of play with that song in the movie. So that melody, like that entire scene is in my head. It's like a super memorable scene from that movie, and that melody just kind of played in my head. And the song itself isn't even that good, but just that melody is kind of interesting. So the steel drum riff that I came up with kind of is a little bit based off of the concept of Here Comes the Hot Stepper, and I just changed it slightly, and then it just felt perfect the way that it ended up flowing. So that's kind of how the instrumentation kind of came to be, then everything else kind of built from that. In terms of like the kind of when peace defies war, that whole spoken word bit, that just, again, just kind of came to me melodically. You know, I have these moments where things will kind of just come to me melodically, and that just kind of came to me. And it is released as a poem on my poetry channel because, especially now that I'm working with kind of the live spoken word open mic scene, I'm playing a lot with, because that's kind of my life right now, like I'm playing a lot with the ideas of kind of taking a song outside of its existence as a tune or a record or a track and actually placing it within a poetry context. And you know, a lot of my lyrics work that way. So No More War is a poem. There's a song called Noticing that I'm working on at time of recording. That's a poem too. Working on that with a good friend of mine. That's also going to be a single. But you know, this idea of kind of taking singles outside of the single setting, I think is really cool, especially with my songs, because my lyrics are always at the core of a lot of my tracks, especially these days. So doing that is really very interesting. Okay, so the collaborator on this is my buddy Mitchell Wexler, and I met him at a show, one of the bands that I play with, and then we kind of just kind of hit it off, and we did one session together where I showed him the song, and he really liked it, so he kind of just wrote a verse for it, and then he had an idea of kind of how to mix it, so we did that and kind of played with it a little bit. But yeah, it was really fun to just kind of meet this poet who just liked the song and kind of just went in there. That was a really super fun, kind of fast, spontaneous process. And, you know, again, just kind of the fact that he helped mix it, I think kind of helped with, you know, bringing in another kind of opinion and kind of different side to it. So, yeah, so it's really cool. He also has like a really kind of thorough understanding of my lyrics and what I'm doing in a certain way. So it kind of just felt right. Like, he's very supportive, and whenever I'm looking for people in my songs, I always try to find people that are, you know, that really reciprocate the enthusiasm, that want to be on my songs. I don't want to have someone who is not interested, you know. I always want to try to have someone who you don't have to force it out of, someone who's gonna be just as enthusiastic about it as you are, so that there's a real kind of camaraderie and stuff. So, you know, all my songs always have people that are, you know, they almost form a little bit of their own relationship to it sometimes, just through the process, and that's really important. And, you know, I've had people ask me, because like my work, I very much study rap as poetry, and I study rap lyrics as poetry, and some people have asked me like, why do I just, why don't I just study poetry? But of course, for me, they're very intertwined. You can have poetry without rap, but you can't have rap without poetry. But they're very much, they exist within each other. Rap is a style of poetry, and I look at rap as poetry. So for me, having a song that has rap next to poetry for the first time in that very traditional way, I think is really, really interesting, because it does kind of speak to where my headspace is right now, looking at both poetry and rap. I'm working on a class right now that I'm conceiving a time of recording that is kind of my first instructor class, where I'm literally kind of exploring, the students explore how to look at texts and poetry next to poetry and rap, which is not something that, is done very often. So for me, they're very intertwined. So I think having a song that really speaks to that is really special. And I think that's kind of how Mitchell falls in, because I think he's, again, his part almost creates another ode to John Trudell that was maybe less intentional. With Optimist Avenue, was made very intentionally. With No More War, now it's a little bit less intentional, but I did show John Trudell to Mitchell the first day we got together, and he was vibing with it. So there's kind of an interesting connection there. But I think, yeah, just having like another song that has poetry over top of music, every time that is done, that automatically kind of harkens back to John Trudell. So I think in a lot of ways, that's kind of how Mitchell's feature speaks in a very certain way that maybe wasn't necessarily intended right away. And that's an example of how, cool things can kind of spark from tracks in ways that you don't necessarily always expect. It's just kind of the exploration of a certain new field. It's a very personal song to me, very happy I made it. The whole process was pretty fresh and new, but I think the most special thing that comes out of this project for me really is the fact that it all kind of came to me at once, more or less. The rhythm of the beat and stuff is a little bit like my song The Jungle, which was kind of a little bit of a syncopated pop thing that I kind of transformed into more of a serious thing through No More War, but that same kind of concept. But No More War just kind of came to me as a song, more or less in its entirety, with the features slightly changing, etc. But that whole process of really having an idea, making a song really fast, that doesn't always happen, and that's really interesting and kind of cool. And this one's especially unique because it really, basically, the entire idea basically came to me at once, which really doesn't happen that often. So I hope you guys enjoy No More War, out everywhere now. Thank you so much.
Why can't we just get along? That's right, looking around and seeing the world, all of the dangers.